Welcome to Lickin' on Lending, the podcast that dives deep into the heart of the mortgage industry. Your host, David Lickin, bringing you the latest insights, trends, and updates from the world of mortgages. Whether you're a seasoned industry veteran or just getting started, this show is your go-to source for all things mortgage. Let's get started. This is Lickin' on Lending. Now your host, David Lickin.
Listeners, we're in for a different AI update podcast. We're going to be talking with Pavan today, and this is an interesting title. Does God play dice with my business? This was when Pavan sent me this slide deck, it got my attention. So I want you guys to sit back, listen to what Pavan has to say. Pavan, good to have you back with another AI update, brother.
Thank you. You know, as you probably know, David, this is a famous quote from Albert Einstein. The actual quote is, does God play dice with the universe? Or rather, the actual quote is, God does not play dice with the universe. But as you know, in business, and you know, you've gone through your ups and downs, it sure seems like that sometimes, right? Like you've got everything planned and then something hits you out of left field and like, poof, it's gone. And it's God's ineffable plan. Like no matter how much you plan, it seems like nothing is predictable.
Right. And you gave this presentation. I want to give a shout out to Chandra. You talk about where you gave this presentation in just brief moments so the listeners have an idea, because we're going to have her as a guest.
Yeah. So my friend and neighbor, Chanda, she's a major business coach, huge following on social media, hundreds of thousands of maybe millions of people follow her. And she was having a high-end networking or a coaching event, I should say. She was having a high-end coaching event, and she invited me to give a little presentation on AI. So I whipped up this deck that morning and I gave it to her group, and they they loved it because it just sort of, it's the question that's on everyone's mind is, why does life feel so unpredictable, and how do I deal with it as a business owner? And what mindset? So the questions that we're going to answer today is, what mindset do I need to have to manage risk, to manage the unpredictability? And second is, what mindset do I need to have in an AI world? And things are changing so rapidly, right? And finally, the answer is, relax, it's just math. It's not magic.
Can't wait to get into it. Let's get going through the slides. That's what's, I mean, I went through this and I'm going, this is so good, especially when you look at how your brain works as an engineer and a programmer.
Yeah. So let's get moving. Oh, anyone's played 21, and by the way, we're going to be in Vegas in a week or so at the Mindset Conference, and we're going to play a lot of 21. No, I'm just kidding. I don't really do this stuff. But anyone's played 21. This is the odds of guessing a single deck. If you're playing single deck 21, this is the odds of, when you shuffle the deck, the odds of guessing the deck right. And so when you shuffle a deck of cards and you're playing against the house, these are your odds. But guess what? At the bottom of this slide here, you see this link?
Yes.
There was a movie called 21 where it's about a couple of MIT kids who beat the casinos and broke the bank, and then they got banned from gambling. Okay. And so there's a paper here that's actually written on how to break blackjack. I'm giving it away.
These I can't wait to have you explain how they did that.
Yeah. So that's this paper. And then, by the way, since then, the casinos have modified the rules. So a lot of what's in this paper probably won't work anymore. And, that's their job. Their job is to win. So, but in a fair blackjack game is actually, you can beat it, not every hand, but consistently you can beat it over time. So, and anybody who wants to learn how to actually break blackjack, there's the link to the papers right here. Okay. And now why I bring this up is because the math behind breaking the bank on blackjack, okay, is exactly the same math underlying AI. And that's what's so interesting, exciting. And I'm gonna take you through a little bit of history lesson, and I'm gonna go back to how ancient this mathematics is and this field of study is. Okay, so we're gonna go back. We're gonna go on a time machine and let's look at the history. So it actually started in 1906 in Russia. The Russians, they're so smart. Okay, so there's Russian mathematicians. Two Russian mathematicians had a debate over God, Markov versus Nekrasov. Okay, and the basically the idea is, can math be used, can statistical modeling be used to explain free will and God? And as we know, God's plans are ineffable, and you can't ever predict what's going to happen next, right?
Right.
You who knows what God's will and God's plan is. And that was the underlying debate here. One was saying that one said, because probabilities are unpredictable, like when you toss a coin, you don't know what's going to happen next. Okay. And that's evidence of free will. And the other guy is saying, no, well, that may be true, but things that are dependent on each other, let's say, like when you pull out a card from a deck of cards, right? If you just got dealt an ace, then the probability of getting the next ace is less likely, right? Because there's only 4 aces in the deck. And the other guy is saying, well, even when there's a deck of cards and when there's interdependencies like that, you could still guess what's going to happen. Okay. And if you could still guess what's going to happen, then God's plans are no longer ineffable. And therefore the math proves that God doesn't exist, or at least in one dimension here. So that's what the debate was. One was an atheist and one was a believer.
Okay.
Okay. So
that was in 1906. Okay.
That was 1906. So this was really an academic, no one's trying to build AI. This was a purely academic debate, mathematics debate. 2 mathematicians, one an atheist, one a believer, debating over this. So this, I kind of already explained this. So there's something called independent events, which is a coin toss. And there's the law of large numbers, so that if you toss a coin a lot of times, then it's predictable that it's going to be pretty much 50-50, right? 50% heads and 50% tails, right? You toss it 100 times, you're going to see about 51 is heads and 49 is tails and so on. That's just the way it works. Okay. But if you deal a deck of cards, and those are dependent probabilities, right? Based on what you get dealt next depends on what you were dealt previously, right? And dependent probabilities do not follow the law of large numbers. Okay.
Interesting. Okay.
And so Markov said, no, I can prove that dependent events do follow the law of large numbers. They are predictable as well. That was Markov's hypothesis. That means you can predict what the next card is going to be. Hence the reference to the 21, playing 21. Okay. So this is really cool. So like this guy more than 100 years ago, 120 years ago, figured out that you can beat blackjack in essence. He wasn't trying to beat blackjack, but that's what he figured out. Okay. So Markov disproved it, and he published a paper back in 1906, and the proof, obviously, stood the test of time, and has been the mathematics holds, and it's been tested experimentally over and over again. And basically what you're seeing here on this slide is called a Markov chain.
So you're saying Markov did not disprove free will, God's will.
Right.
He disproved that its existence could be proven through statistical modeling. Interesting.
Right. So he basically, he disproved Neskrov's claim that because of law of large numbers, God's will exists, and so he disproved that. Just one specific argument that was used to prove God, he disproved that one argument, which was a dumb argument on the basis of which to prove God anyways. But anyway, that was their silly side debate that they were having. Now, not so silly. I mean, it changed the world. It literally, this thing that you're seeing right here in front of you, this Markov chain diagram, this literally changed the world in dramatic ways.
And you're going to explain how that happened and how that is.
Yes, I'm going to explain how that is. So,
but before we go on, the statement you have, all Wall Street traders know that every new trade must be memoryless. What do you mean by that?
Anyone who's trading, anyone who trades shares or bonds, that it doesn't matter if you bought a stock at 50, right? And now the value fell to 46, right? You don't worry about the $4 that you lost. Okay. If you keep living in the past, thinking about, I bought it at 50 and now it's at 46. I can't take this trade. I'm going to lose money. Right. And then next thing you know, it falls to 40 or 30 and you lose even more money. Right. You're supposed to trade on that moment. Forget about what you bought something at and look based on the information you have, you make the trade. Right. It's Wall Street traders are very, very disciplined, and
and that's what you mean by memoryless. In other words, they're not memorizing what they bought it at. They're looking at the current condition
situation
at the moment.
You got to trade. Look at the current situation, trade on that. That's your best outcome will always be when you trade on the current situation and forget about what happened before, right? And so everyone in Wall Street knows, every trader knows, every experienced trader knows this, but no one really knows. Not no one, but the most traders don't know why that works. And the reason why that works, again, is the Markov chain. Okay, so basically what Markov proved was that what happens next only depends on the state of affairs right now at this moment. The present is the only thing that can help you predict the future, not the past. So really what Markov's saying, forget about the past. Forget that you bought the shares at 50. That is irrelevant to the fact that it's at 46 right now, and they just issued their earnings forecast, and you got to make a trade going forward. So you can only bottom line is you can only make decisions based on the present and on the data on the present, and forget about everything in the past.
There's a life principle here as well, Pavan, because how many people live in the past and they never are able to be successful in the present or the future?
We all live in the past. It's very hard to remember, especially every time, we made a mistake, every time we've been deceived or been hurt, or conversely, every time we did something right, had a good time, good things have happened, and we get bound to those emotions and we repeat those things. And that doesn't necessarily mean because something good happened last time and because you turned right, something good happened, doesn't mean you're going to turn right the rest of your life.
Right.
So you just because what happened yesterday is should not be driving you what's going to happen to what are you going to do tomorrow, right? It's just only thing that matters is what you're seeing at the moment.
Okay.
Right. Which is really a surprising, a moment of clarity if you really understand this. Like only what's in front of you right now, this second, is how you're supposed to make your decision.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it is sort of. I mean, it's a little bit of counterintuitive, right? I mean, people like
it is definitely counterintuitive.
Yeah. Because it's like, well, what about experience?
I'm a trader, so I love trading, and I've always known the past does not give you any help. And when you're moving forward and you've lost some money, you just take it right where it's at.
Yeah, all that does is create emotional loops and makes your life very painful.
Yes, emotional roots. That's a great way to put it. Yes,
right. So, again, the whole point is the universe is predictable. There's a probability, not predictable, but you can assign probabilities of what could happen next based on exactly what things are right now. And the history of how you got there has absolutely no bearing. Okay. All right. So let's talk about so 1906, so now let's move forward.
Ominous image you have there. Vanity, knowledge.
Vanity is equal to knowledge minus wisdom.
Yes.
Right? And all that knowledge from Markov minus the wisdom created this terrible demonic instrument of nuclear weapons, right? So fast forward from 1906 to 1940, right? So 34 years later, so this little debate between these two mathematicians in Russia, without that math that Markov pioneered, we couldn't have made a nuclear bomb. Let's stop and think about that for a minute. If they didn't have that debate, the Manhattan Project would not have succeeded.
The implications of tying those two, I'm still struggling a little bit on that, but keep going.
Yeah. Well, and the fundamental, the problem in building a nuclear bomb is that you have to figure out what the critical
right amount of uranium, yes,
the right amount to create the chain reaction, right? And the chain reaction is one neutron hitting another atom, and then that spins off more neutrons to hit another atom, right? So and then you have to know exactly how much to pack together and the configuration and all this kind of stuff, so that to trigger the chain reaction. Okay. And what they were trying to do to solve that, and remember, this is before supercomputers, right? So they couldn't even actually, just run it. They can run, simulations. And even then, I don't think a supercomputer today could ever run the simulation because of the, there's, billions of atoms, right? Because, one neutron hits another one that throws off 10 other neutrons that may or may not hit more atoms and so on and so on, right? And the question is, how much uranium do you need to create this chain reaction, and how does it need to be packed? Okay. And if you put too much, it doesn't work. If you put too little, it doesn't work. All right. But when you look at the whole chain reaction problem, it one of the mathematicians, one of the physicists on the Manhattan Project said, "Hey, wait a minute. This is a Markov chain, right? I don't care how we got to the point of this neutron getting released. All I care about is once the neutron is released, what's the probability of it releasing the next one?" Right. So again, the same idea is applied, that it doesn't matter the past of the chain reaction. All that matters is at this point in the reaction, what's the probability of the reaction continuing?
All right.
Okay? So once again, the past doesn't matter. Down to the subatomic level, the past doesn't matter. Only what's the state of the nuclear fuel at any moment, and then what's the probability of it creating another reaction?
Okay.
Okay. I don't know if
I'm hearing and I can't wait for you to walk us through the rest of this.
I don't know if I've lost the audience by now, but the bottom line is math that started in 1906 by two Russian mathematicians was fundamental to the Manhattan Project and ending World War II.
Which set up the Monte Carlo simulations, or the tree, which we do use in trading all the time now.
Right. Because the Monte Carlo tree search is what was created it's a derivative math from Markov chains. It's just another way to represent the Markov chains, and this is what the Manhattan Project guys called it. It's a way to do the calculation. It's a methodology. So yeah, I apologize for introducing a new term here in the middle, but it's still a Markov chain presented in a slightly different way, calculated a different way, and then they named it the Monte Carlo tree. Okay, and then it's named after why they call it Monte Carlo. Again, back to the whole casino thing that we began with is based on the casinos in Monte Carlo. It's a gambling question. So probability, gambling, nuclear weapons, all the same thing at the end of the day.
Amazing.
Right. So, it just tells you when you have knowledge and not have wisdom, then you take something beautiful like this math, and you can reverse it as something obscene.
Yeah. And that's a good word for what we're looking at in that mushroom cloud. It's obscene.
Yeah. No wisdom equals to perversion. Okay. So this is kind of in a nutshell, like after the AI geniuses watching this will be like, oh, you missed a whole lot. There's more to it than just these three events. But I'm pulling out the most important ones. In my mind, in my opinion, they're the most important ones. So we have already talked about 1906, which is without that math, nothing would exist. The 1970, the backpropagation paper was published, which is the fundamental of modern neural networks. And then 2015, which makes all this AI explosion today possible, was published by Google. In 2015, Google DeepMind used the Monte Carlo tree search, or the Markov chains, basically. Okay, and they created AlphaGo. So they beat world champion, Grandmaster Go player. So Google's AI beat Grandmaster Go player. Okay, remember the Go board is a game board that has infinite possibilities. Every move can create an infinite number of possible moves, right? Very much like a nuclear reaction or a deck of cards, right? And so again, they use the same principle of saying, look at the board now and calculate and create this Monte Carlo tree and calculate the most likely next best move and make the move. Okay. So that's a fundamental of every AI system today. Is when Google had that breakthrough with AlphaGo, it's like these Monte Carlo trees are everywhere. Okay, so all this protein folding AI and all the science AI and everything is based on this breakthrough right here. All the physics AI and everything is based on this. Okay, and then finally in 2017, and that's what makes LLMs and everything else that we're seeing in AI possible, is the attention is all you need, which that paper simplified the whole way we look at language. Okay.
Okay.
Are you with me so far?
I am.
1906, 1970, 2015, 2017, and modern AI is born. So the message take away from this is what really moves the needle on AI. What really creates the breakthroughs is not the latest version of ChatGPT or Claude or something like that. What really moves the needle is fundamental math. When fundamental math breakthroughs occur, then you'll see big strides in AI.
And I can't wait to find, and you have created some of those, have you not?
We have, yeah. So we don't publish our breakthroughs because we're a commercial operation. We're not an academic operation. But those are trade secrets. So the question is, can ChatGPT beat the house of blackjack? Well, ChatGPT or every other modern LLM and every AI, modern AI is nothing more than a very sophisticated Markov chain, or Monte Carlo tree, very large and very sophisticated Monte Carlo tree, which is a Markov chain. So yes, wouldn't be hard at all for it to give it a hand, and it'll tell you the most probability whether you should hit or not hit. It's a very simple thing for modern AI to do.
Simple. Okay.
Yeah. And again, as I said earlier, there's a paper already out published on this, exactly the math on how this is done.
And that was the paper you mentioned on the previous slide?
That in the beginning, yes. That was the paper I mentioned in the beginning slide. Correct.
Fascinating.
All right.
Now, this imagery got my attention.
Right. So will AI nuke my business? So we create these great tools or weapons, whether it's AI or nuke, and in the wrong hands, it can destroy the world like any other tool. Will it nuke your business? If you don't apply it and learn it and use it, yes, your competitors will nuke you. That's kind of the simple lesson from that. And then the second is, and probably the most important lesson to take away from this presentation, from this discussion is, it's just math. It's not magic, right? If you scroll through social media and you listen to like all the hype that's out there and people talking about AI is going to do this, AI is going to do that, and AI is going to do a lot of those things. But so much of social media and pop culture is presented like this is some kind of magic, right?
Right, and it isn't. It's math.
There's no magic. There's no magic. It's no more magical than the calculator on your phone or on your desk, or no more magical than watching, having a video call with your mom, right? It's
right.
That's a video call with your mom's on your wireless device would have seemed like magic in the 80s.
Right, it would have been, yes.
Yeah. Right. That's something out of a Dick Tracy movie or something like that. Right. But these days everyone's doing it. I think it's just tech. It's just math. Right. So don't get like overwhelmed by it. There's no magic. It's just a process. It's math, and anyone can learn it. It's straightforward, right? And don't be scared. It isn't like you have to be a mathematician to make use of it. The reason I went into all this math is so that you can just relax. There's no magic here. Someone else has already done the heavy lifting, already done the math. Unless you're a mathematician and you want to, and your intent on making the next breakthrough on AI, okay, don't worry about the math. Just understand the tools and use it for what it can do.
Yeah. And that's the lesson out of this.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the lessons out of this, and we're gonna cover a couple more lessons, right? So, again, going back to the math, with 120 years of this math, well tested, and so much technology, almost like in many ways, all the technology you use today goes back to what Markov, the math that Markov pioneered, 1906, and it's fundamentally what happens next depends only on the state of affairs, and more important, more to the point, the state of your mind now. So live in the moment. Okay. Meaning, so if you're trying to make a decision, right, drop all the emotions of the past, have a clear understanding of the present, of this moment. Right. Don't worry about what happened yesterday. Things happened yesterday.
Yeah. As a consultant and in my own life, I'm sitting and thinking the profoundness of this statement, live in the moment. But I've always heard that. But when you think about what you're talking about here, as it relates to that, gives new light of the importance of this principle.
Yes. And here's the thing to take away from is this live in the moment, right? Make decisions based on the facts, real hard facts that you have in front of you. What do you know right now? And make the decisions based on that. Okay. This isn't a philosophy. This is science now, right? There is 100.
That's a great point.
20 years of math supporting this. This is real science. This is why every Wall Street trader is adamant about following this science. Now, you can make a bad decision because you didn't have enough information or you didn't consider all the facts.
Right.
But
which is most of the time the case.
Right. Either you didn't consider what happens usually is you don't consider all the facts in the present, and then you end up including facts from the past that are not relevant in the present. That's why most bad decisions are made. Right? Feelings from you take feelings from the past and you bundle it in as facts of the present.
Right. Fascinating.
Right? Again, the best example of when you take feelings of the past and make it a present day fact is you bought the shares at 50, and that is a dimension to your current decision process. Well, no, it doesn't matter what you bought the shares at. You take that out of you play the board as it is today. You don't like when you're playing chess, the fact that you just lost your queen doesn't matter. Now you have to play the board with what you got. Okay.
Part that is, this is more than a philosophy. What you're doing is you're getting this to the point where it is, oh my gosh.
Right. So it doesn't matter what's going on around you, right? What happened? You got to have a calm state of mind, right? It could be a nuclear bomb going off. It doesn't matter. When you're taking the decision right now, calm, clear state of mind and move on.
That is a tremendous graphic. Wow.
Right. And a business feels like that so much.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There are really hard days when it feels like bombs are going off everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. Doesn't matter. Right. But you still got to move forward. You still got to make decisions. And those decisions can only be made on what real data you have right now.
Amazing. I really find this so fascinating.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So the last bit of philosophy, we'll drop is, why do we insist on living in the past? What keeps us as human beings, we keep getting dragged into all the good and bad things that happened in the past. And we keep letting those things influence us in the moment. Yeah. And my theory on that is vanity. It's our vanity. Our ego gets hurt, right? Our ego gets lifted or it gets hurt based on things that happened in the past. And
so true.
We confuse our ego with who we are. And no, the two different things, right?
Yes.
So vanity is definitely the devil's favorite sin. And those of you who know the Buddha story, that was his last test before he became the Buddha. Before Siddhartha became the Buddha, his last test that God threw at him was see if he could defeat his own vanity.
And the outcome was?
The outcome was that he did. And very, very, very few people have ever
been able to accomplish that.
Yeah. I mean, you basically become a Buddha if you control and defeat your vanity. So anyone out there thinking they've defeated the vanity, yeah, that's vanity in itself.
So Pavan, take this all now back to what we're talking about in AI. There's a lot of people that are working on the past, where they're stuck in the past and their mind's there. Things are changing. We have a new reality out there, AI, things that are going on. People like you that have brilliant minds and this presentation just tells me again, it reminds me how brilliant your brain is, but carrying that now to the applied, what should people be thinking as they look at what you've think about what you've said today, think about their business and how should they be moving forward?
Yeah. So first is, don't get overhyped by social media, by what's being thrown out there, right? I read all of the, not all, as much as I can. I think I read all the important papers that come out of Google and Apple and MIT and other major institutions, major academics on AI and on the math. And there's a lot of interesting stuff that comes out. I have not seen another paper yet that is as significant as the ones that I mentioned. Not seen anything that's as significant as this Google Go or as the attention is all you need or as Markov chains, things like that, right? So that means we're at a plateau, right? AI is at a plateau, and when you're in a technology plateau, things will get marginally better. They're usually
right.
There's more applications of the science, but there isn't necessarily. We don't have another breakthrough yet, and a breakthrough will happen when new math is invented. Okay, so
now that math, let's talk about that. You're the mathematician. Does new math get invented, or does it exist? It's just us discovering it. Because the question I would have is, all math has already been created. We just don't have the knowledge of it, right?
I think I forget which physicist said this, but the best mathematician is God, and we're just trying to figure out his formulas.
Yeah, scratching the surface of it, to be honest.
Exactly.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely, I agree. All right, so going back to the lessons that we need to learn from your presentation today, what are the things that you would encourage business owners?
Right. So the bottom line is that we Good news is that I believe there's a plateau. There's a plateau in not in application, but in fundamental capability. And
So a plateau compared to where we have been, where there has been the contrast in is there's been steep learning, a lot of learning, but now we're hitting a plateau and leveling off and able to
you have
capitalize on it.
yes. So the bottom line is there's been the science has put us to a point where there's enough there in AI. It's enough of it has come together where it's really usable and we can do and it has real business applications and we can make money with it. Okay. And this before Google's attention paper, that didn't exist. Okay. There was application that was more niche, specific applications of AI. Now, after Google's attention paper, there's broad-based application that everyone can use, and the plateau means is that we have the science is at a plateau. The technology is getting better, so that more and more of us can use it, and it's cheaper and easier to use the AI. And there's every day we're inventing and discovering new ways to apply it. Okay, so don't bother yourself with the science and the math of how this actually works. It doesn't really matter. Okay, it's just get in there and pick your favorite tool, and hopefully your favorite tool is Angel AI, and start learning it, using it. And like what I've seen from my own experiences, customers are using Angel AI in ways that I never even thought about. Like, wow, that's really cool. I didn't think you could do it for that, right? Because it's.
Can you give us an example for that? Can you give an example? Because I mean, I love these. Thank you for sending over all the testimonials that you do, and they can all be found on your website, angelai.com. You can go down to testimonials of yours and read them, and you should, because there's people that are discovering some new uses and use cases for Angel AI all the time. Give us a couple examples of the ones that have really impressed you recently.
Yeah, I think I was talking to a realtor recently, and he's connected it to his inbound lead process, and as the lead comes in, it automatically qualifies the AI for the realtor. The AI is automatically approving the customer, right? And he's getting and then immediately going back and giving answers back to the customer. So he's now for his customers like a super agent. Right. And so he's connected it in a certain way with his emails and that I never even thought about. And he made it work. And like, okay, that's cool.
So when you say he has inbound leads, are they leads that are coming via email?
From his website, email, So
whatever. It's not limited to one source.
Yes.
And he has those leads coming into his email or into Angel AI. He's built
the document. And he's set up bots to load it in Angel and let it run and give his answer. So I mean, he's literally changed
the bots the bots are inside of Angel,
outside of Angel,
outside. Okay,
yeah, and to that matter, we're going to make that process really, really easy now. And last week we released a press release about Angel AI and OpenCloud integration, and I'm sure everyone listening to this has heard of OpenCloud.
Absolutely.
And so Angel AI will now be tightly integrated with OpenCloud. So if you have your so that you can go to Angel AI, it'll set up your OpenCloud environment, and Angel will be an agent inside OpenCloud. And you can just make this whole process of connecting into your leads, connecting to your workflow becomes even more transparent and easy.
Fascinating. Yvonne, every time we get together with you, you challenge my brain, we grow and learn more what's behind the curtain and as well as what we can do moving forward. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And one more thing I want to add to that is, and you asked me for examples, is the sort of native CRM capabilities that are in Angel. And people are using that a lot to generate leads. And
now you're hitting a really interesting topic. Explain, how are people doing that?
Yeah. So, here's the thing, like when you use Angel, you earn points for using it, and you earn a lot of points. When you refer Angel to somebody else, you earn a bunch of points, like tons of points. And so we have people out there with 1 million+ points. And then you can use those points. One of the things you could use the points for is you can use it to buy leads, like data, like high quality, expensive data. You can buy.
And where are they buying the leads from then?
Well, they're buying it from, Angel goes out to data brokers and buys the data.
Okay, okay.
Right? So you use the points to buy the data, and Angel takes care. You don't have to worry about that because Angel goes and gets it from data brokers and loads it up. And then you Then you turn around and use the angel prospecting app, and it'll start calling and nurturing those leads for you. So it's like you let these agents run on these angel agents run on their own, and you're generating business. But not only are you generating business, but it's taking the business all the way across the finish line, and you're closing business. And now imagine that integrated into OpenClaw, where OpenClaw is now connected to. The beauty of OpenClaw is that it's connected to everything else in the universe, right? Or in the cyberverse, right? Your emails, your WhatsApp, your social media, your accounting system, this, that, OpenClaw connect to anything you tell it connect to. And imagine like those leads coming in and customers being contacted all different ways, and OpenClaw is sending out all the messages the way you want it to everything else. I mean, it's just, there's no limit to this. You can literally have a one-man machine, basically. If you're a realtor, you could set this up and by yourself be nurturing, tens of thousands of customers that would normally take a large team to do. But now you have hundreds of agents doing it for you. You just set up the OpenClaw agents to do it.
We've truly entered a new world, Pavan.
Yeah. And again, it's just, there's so much creativity out there that to be captured, right? And anyone listening, just got to get in there, just use it, right? And say, and apply your creative energy, and you're going to be able to create amazing things. Just like, get a hammer, nails, and a saw, and you can build a house, right? Those are fundamental tools. AI is a fundamental tools to building a business empire.
Yeah.
What you can do now on your own, that's what's changed, right? Is what you as one person can do, right? What would normally have required a large expensive team and training and investment. You can just do, if you just take that time, money, and invest in yourself and just learning some of these tools and using it, it's equivalent of having a team of hundreds.
That's true. I mean, we're seeing evidence of that all the time as we're looking more and more at the productivity. Productivity should be able to go up dramatically as far as it relates to the number of loans someone can originate, serve, and still not give up their life to accommodate or to serve that many people. It's really about providing service.
It's not just about providing service, but providing better service.
Better service, yes. That's a good way to put it. Yes, absolutely.
And customers will feel the difference.
Yeah.
That's what's really going to end up at the end of the day. Customers who's working with your competitor who's not on AI and who's a very good guy, working his or her, tush off, right? And sincere and cares. And then you with AI, also a really good guy working your tush off. But that same 8-hour day, you're going to be able to deliver a level of service that's 100 times better.
Another level up.
Than the other guy, simply because that customer is going to feel like that customer feel like you are dedicated to that customer, to that person. Like, for example, I'll give you an example of that just happened 2 days ago. One of my top producers in Texas, she posted her Angel Twin link, her Angel AI link with her twin. So it's Angel AI / Christina or something like that, right? She posted it on her realtor's listing post and says, if you're interested in this house, click here and talk to me and take your loan application. All right. She got 6 loan applications from one post.
And didn't have to talk to a person because it was
her twin talked to the person.
And how convincing is that today? I've seen it, so I'm asking the question knowing the answer, but explain just how convincing and the interactive ability it is.
Well, look, it's not designed to convince you to say that this is the real Christina, not the twin Christina, right? We're not trying to fool anyone. And the minute you try to do that, never use a AI to try to fool someone that it's you. Okay, because then you lose the trust. Trust is the most important in the business.
The most important thing.
It's very clear.
Most important currency we have, yes.
Yes. So the customer is very clear that he's talking to the AI of Christina, but the customer is also creates a bond and a connection with that AI, similar to the way he would with Christina. He feels more comfortable. It's like, I can get along with Christina. I think I can work with her.
So when someone like Christina uses this tool, does it shorten the time it takes and the volume she can do, the time that a loan can go from app to closing?
She took 7 loan applications and never talked to the borrower. Her twin talked to the borrower.
That's extraordinary.
I mean, she did call him, afterwards and just check up on him. How you doing? Right? But that's not the same. Can you imagine? You know how much you should take? You should take dozens of applications.
I did.
Every day. How much time it takes?
Yes. This is amazing. Thank you so much, Pavan.
Thank you, David. Cheers.
You bet. Folks, this podcast was made possible by Angel AI, our sponsor and our guest today. Thank you so much. Be sure to submit to us your questions that we might be able to do a better job of bringing you more AI updates. I love your feedback. I have a lot of you saying, I don't believe any of this stuff. I just don't understand it. Well, we're trying to help you wrap your head around AI and the developments that are happening. I can't think of anyone better that I talk to, and I talk to a lot of people on AI. I can't think of anyone better to help us through this journey of learning more about AI than Pavan Aggarwal. Thank you so much for being here. Hope you enjoyed the podcast.
You've been listening to Lickin' on Lending. Our passion is to bring you the latest insights, trends, and updates from the world of mortgages. So on this show, if you're a seasoned industry veteran or just getting started, it's your go-to source for all things mortgage. We hope you've enjoyed the show. We'll be back soon. Take care, and we'll see you next time on Lickin' on Lending.